time. Anyway, let's discuss this a bit more. It's of course it's got to do with the issue of hellfire, right? Um, there are various ways by which people, get around, let's say, the problem of hell and eternal punishment for finite deeds, because that's the issue, right? If how can we have an eternal punishment, somebody being punished forever and ever and ever unceasingly, okay, for a limited time of deeds that you've done in this world? And, we've mentioned on this channel many times that in the end, heaven and hell are achieved by deeds, not beliefs or anything like that. Okay. So people come around this with different ways. One of them, most popular one, is probably that hell will come to an end, and then eventually hell will stop existing. Sort of God packs it up, and there's no more hell. Okay. Another one is that the punishment in hell is temporary. That everybody who enters hell only enters it temporarily. Eventually they leave. Okay. لَابِثِينَ فِيهَا أَحْقَابًا. It's taken from that verse mostly. Okay. That they will be in there for ages. أحقاب is a plural for an age. Okay. So if something is a plural, it's finite. And then there's the idea that the people of hell will literally become أصحاب النار, the companions of the fire. Or أصحاب الجحيم. Like they will become accustomed to it, or they will become familiar with it. They will become elemental. Okay, in the same way that they give examples of how if you take a piece of iron and you put it in the furnace, okay, it sort of like feels pain as it gets heated up hotter and hotter and hotter until eventually it becomes red hot, right? And it's become like part of the fire. The iron has become like fire itself. Okay, the iron has become fire itself as it's been in the fire for so long. And now actually taking it out of the fire is more painful for it. Sort of the idea, if you take out that red hot piece of, iron and then you put it into the water, now it feels punishment when you put it in cool water. Okay, because its nature has changed. So this was something I think was pioneered mostly by the great Sufi Ibn Arabi. He said, and he even played on it with the words. He said the azab, the punishment, the word azab in Arabic, after a certain amount of time, the alif represents time, it will change, after a certain amount of time is passed, it will change into azb. The Arabic word azb is sweetness, like it's used in the Quran for the two, when it's talking about the sweet water and bitter water, the salty bitter water and the sweet refreshing water that you can drink. Okay, so there's that idea. There's also the idea that they will become inanimate. Some people in the past spoke of that they will become jamad, right? That eventually they will stop moving. Okay, and someone said that they stop, all movement will eventually stop. It means they just become inanimates. Okay, like stone. God changes them while they're in hellfire. They get changed into basically just like stone, right? Stone, inanimate beings. Okay. There's also the idea that both heaven and hell, both of them will come to an end because the only true eternal one is God, right? Ultimately, they will both come to an end. Time itself comes to an end because only God is eternal. And I've mentioned before, this shouldn't actually be a bullet point here. I've mentioned before that in the hereafter, those in hell are between being alive and being dead. So I forget the name of that stream, but we were talking about how if you look at how the life of people of this world is called, and the life of the hereafter is called, and for the people of Jannah, and the life of the people in hell, how it's all described, it seems like we now are more alive than the people in hell will be. People in hell, the Quran talks about them, ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. They are neither alive nor dead. They're in between life and death. Okay, so that's sort of a bit like this idea of inanimate, right? Whereas, we're told that this hayat dunya, this life of this world, is just a sort of an illusion and a delusion. Okay, and the hereafter, lahiya al-hayawan, that's true life. The people in Jannah, they are really alive. In comparison to us, they have real, life. And so you can think of it in that sort of spectrum. Anyway, so these are all different ways People try to get over this. I myself, what I like to emphasize is the explicit, repeated affirmations in the Quran that no injustice will be done. Okay, that's the important thing. How will that come about? Okay, we can talk about it as much as we want, but in the end, the Quran says that repeatedly, لا ظلم اليوم. There will be no injustice on that day. Okay, and even the people of who enter hell will go in saying Alhamdulillah that God was not unjust to us, right? They will praise God for His justice, that that they are not receiving any injustice. And we've said also, punishment is only in accordance with deeds. إِنَّمَا تُجْزَوْنَ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Okay, the Quran says this to the people of hell as well. لا تعتذر اليوم إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. Okay, you're only being recompensated according to what you did. Okay, nothing more, nothing less, right? So it's by their deeds. Okay, according to the deeds, and that's it. And the second thing, another thing, very important thing, is that God's justice and His mercy are ultimately one. Okay, like the title of the slide is, it's not a clash between justice and mercy. Okay, God's justice is not at war with His mercy, and whichever one wins, that's what. It isn't like that. Isn't it? God's justice is fighting over people, and God's mercy is fighting over people, and which one is going to win? Okay, no, God is one, right? His justice is enough to send people to heaven. Okay, just by His justice, and just by His mercy, it's enough to send people to hell. Okay, these are both. They're both in the end. God is in the end one. Okay, we talk about God's qualities and His thing, but in the end, He is ultimate oneness, God. Okay. And another thing to remember with people that do this, they're basically they're judging God before He has done anything, right? So no one has yet been sent to hell. Okay, nobody has even seen it, and God is waiting for Judgment Day to judge us for what we have actually done already. Okay, so all of humanity have all done certain crimes, misdeeds, etc. But God isn't judging us for it now, right? Okay, God's going to wait until Judgment Day, and then there'll be judgment. Okay, so shouldn't we at least wait until Judgment Day, until actually seeing hell, okay, before judging God as unjust for what He has yet to do? Okay, what we have yet to see, and what is really beyond us right now. The idea of hell and life after death. These things are beyond us right now. So can't we at least trust that God really will not be so flagrantly unjust as some imagine? Okay, and then of course there's the idea I've mentioned before in that more speculative video, God's end game. That beyond heaven and hell, that there's something more to this. We're not here being tested for virtues, for taqwa, for bir, for these sort of things, only to just then spend the rest of eternity in heaven, just enjoying ourselves. Okay, I believe that there's going to be something beyond. Right, we're being tested for a purpose. Okay, God wants to see which of us is best in deeds, and that is going to count for something in the afterlife. In the same way, those who fail in this world, basically going to hell is like, okay, they're not useful. These people are not going to be part of the future project of humanity. Okay, they're not going to be, they can't be entrusted with anything. Okay, so they go to hell, and it's sort of like end game for them. Another way to, one of the ways to understand. Anyway, I'll skip that. I don't want to make this too long. So eternity, khulud, and timelessness. So the Arabs did use khulud for things that seem to defy time. Okay, things that seem to defy time. In the same way that we would say about somebody who is who doesn't seem to age. They would say about somebody, well, mukhallad min nas. He's just ageless. This person, for the last 20 years, he hasn't changed. His looks haven't changed. Okay, they would say to somebody like mukhallad. He's ageless. He's time is not ravaging his body. Okay, or for a woman. Okay, and you see that sometimes, right? You see these video clips of where they bring these celebrities and say, these videos where it says proof that so and so doesn't age, right? And they bring the pictures of this actor or actress from 20 years and how he or she is now, and there's hardly any difference. Okay, ageless, right? That was used, or for something that doesn't change, so for something that doesn't change over time. Okay, and so it's timeless in that sense. So there are some Quranic examples for this. So there's this is one I like the most, I think. This verse. واتل عليهم نبأ الذي آتيناه آياتنا فانسلخ منها فأتبعه الشيطان فكان من الغاوين, and recite to them, O Muhammad, the news or the tale of the one whom we gave our signs, we gave knowledge of our signs, but he detached himself from them. Okay, so Shaitan pursued him and he became of the deviants. Okay, من الغاوين. And then the next verse says ولو شئنا لرفعناه بها ولكنه أخلد إلى الأرض واتبع هواه. And if we had willed, we would have elevated him by those signs. But he adhered to, he stuck to, he didn't change. He stuck to the earth. He adhered to the earth. ولكنه أخلد إلى الأرض. Right? He just chose to be unchanging in his sort of adherence to the earth, to the sensual things, to the lower world, okay, and followed his ahwa, his own desires, okay. And so what akhlad al-ard means is that he was just unchanging with regards to his, to wanting the earth, okay, wanting to be, not thinking of beyond this earth, beyond this sensual world. The earth here has been mentioned because we're talking about sort of materialism, okay, the material things of this world, okay, and also he followed his hawa, okay, ولكنه أخلد الأرض واتبع هواه, followed his hawa. Hawa, remember we had a stream about that. It's in opposition to knowledge a lot of the time, okay. It's not shahwat, okay. Shahwat is the lusts, the body lust, and I think they're already included within this أخلد إلى الأرض, right? But this is something else. تبع هواه, he followed his ahwa, okay. And then the verse sort of explains that. فمثله, so his example is what? Is like a dog, okay. كمثل الكلب إن تحمل عليه يلهث أو تتركه يلهث. When you move towards him threateningly, okay, like you pick up a stick and you come towards him like you're going to hit him, basically threatening the dog, okay, doesn't do anything, just sits there and pants, lolls out his tongue and pants, يلهث. أو تتركه يلهث, or if you don't do anything, he just sits there and does the same thing, doesn't change, unchanging, okay. Okay, his example is like that of a dog. If you chase him, he pants, or if you leave him, he still pants, okay. I don't think chase is the best word here. It says just تحمل عليه, okay. There are sometimes the dog gets to the state where just won't change, okay, whatever you do, right? This one makes it seem as if while you're chasing him, he's running away, he's panting, right? But I think it's talking about تحمل عليه يلهث أو تتركه يلهث, okay. But the point is, whichever way you take it, it's still talking about, it's the same thing. It's not changing. That is an example of the one who denied our signs, so relate to them the stories that perhaps they will give thought. Another example is يحسب أن ماله أخلده. Okay, he thinks that his wealth will make him immortal. Okay, he thinks his wealth will always keep things the same for him, keep him in only good times, only good condition. Of course, no rich person actually thinks that his wealth will make him immortal and live forever. Okay, maybe in the future some people will think that. Then there are some people that are trying to, rich people are trying to invest in technology and gene therapy and stuff to make them live forever, etc. But of course, in the past, nobody even thought, this didn't occur to anybody. Anybody who was rich didn't think that his wealth was actually going to make him immortal and never die. What does it mean? يحسب أن ماله أخلده. Does this person actually think that he's going to be immortal and never die because of his wealth? No, of course not. It means that he thinks that his wealth will keep him as he is, okay, as he is, unchanging. Okay, no trouble will happen to him. He will be as he is. Okay. Another verse, يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون. Okay, in the Quran it talks about the youths who will serve the people in Jannah. and this describes them a lot of the times as wildanun mukhalladun, that they will be mukhallad. Okay, what does that mean? They will mukhallad, that they will be eternal. No, it means that they will be for sort of forever young, unchanging. They're not going to change. They will always be youths like this. They're not going to sort of grow older. It's not about that they're going to, everybody's going to be in Jannah, everybody's going to be there forever, right? Eternal. Okay, so why is this verse saying mukhalladun about the wildan? It's just talking about, it's describing that they're going to be unchanging. Okay, unchanging. Mukhalladun here, they're not going to change, they're not going to grow older, etc. So that's another indication of that. Okay, so again, so linguistically then it does make sense to refer to timelessness as a form of eternity. Okay, when you remove time, if you take away the quality of time, okay, then everything is happening in no time, okay, or in the now, really in no time. Everything is happening without any time, okay. Everything is happening all at once at the same time, and yet still in a way sequentially, okay, if that makes sense, okay. And so what you have is the eternal now. I'm going to play at the end, I'll try to play this video from one of the NEDs I've used before, but this person, he tried to put things in very good words, and one of the things which he said is that during his experience, it felt like a perpetual unfolding of now. Okay, a perpetual, so forever, eternal, unfolding of just now, this one moment. Okay, so the same thing. Okay, like I said, when you remove time, everything is happening in no time. Okay, all you have is the eternal now. Okay, in which everything happens. Or you could say the eternal day, right? Eternal day. Okay, so we have this actual word in the Quran. Okay, it says in Surah Qaf, when it's talking about the people of Jannah, it says, "Udkhuluha bisalam," enter it with peace. ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْخُلُودِ. That is the day of eternity. The day of, what does it mean, day of eternity? That the day is going to be one day for eternity, it's not going to end? Or does it mean it's a day of timelessness? Okay, day of timelessness, day of eternity. Okay, when one day you have the whole of eternity. And so that brings you back to that same poem of William Blake, Eternity in an Hour. I've changed it a little bit here, maybe a bit presumptuous, I'm not sure, but I sort of just took a few minutes to change a few things here. I've rewritten it a little bit. It says, to see a world in a grain of sand, and heaven in taqwa's way, be given infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in a day. Okay, so you can have this eternity in a day. Now, one of the ways that people have tried to get, again, around the problem of hellfire, this is one which I saw from Adnan Ibrahim. Okay, Adnan Ibrahim said that the punishment often in the Quran is mentioned as the punishment of a day. Okay, the punishment of a day, not the punishment of anything more. Just a minute, sorry. Go back to something else. Yeah. So, for example, in this verse, إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. Indeed, I fear for you the punishment of a terrible day. So the whole punishment is going to be a day. Okay, a day. And that day is going to be a day of khulud, right? Very similar to, people in Jannah, ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْخُلُودِ. That is the day of khulud, of eternity or timelessness. Okay, so indeed I fear for you the punishment of a terrible day. إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. Described it as a day. Okay, and there are many verses like this. When I searched it, I think it was like something 15 verses which describe it as, يوم عظيم, يوم أليم, يوم كبير, يوم عقيم. Okay, عذاب يوم عظيم, عذاب يوم أليم, عذاب يوم كبير, etc. Here's another one here. أن لا تعبدوا إلا الله إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم أليم. Indeed, I fear for you the punishment of a painful day, just one day. Okay, and then Ibrahim, I think he uses that, and he talks about how that one day could be 50,000 years or whatever, but that just brings back the same problem. Even if the day is 1,000 years, okay, who does the sins to warrant punishment in hell for 1,000 years. Again, I think it's just we have to get out of this idea that it's got to do with sequential time. That people will be in hell for a day, and then 2 days, then 3, a week, a month, a decade, a year. It's not like that. It's not this cumulative time. Okay, and let's say though you do think that there's going to be eternal time, the time itself will just keep going. Okay, never-ending time. Okay, that there will always be time. That time is not something that will end. Okay, that there will not be a beyond time. Then you still don't need to conclude from that the punishment will be infinite. Okay, these are not the same things. You can have something which stretches on eternity in time, but it's still finite. It's still finite. Okay, and I've spoken about this before. The way the easiest way to understand that is through limits of mathematics, and I wrote an equation for it. It's right here on the screen. So let me just read what I've wrote here. I've mentioned before that even if you accept that time will always continue, and those in hell will continue onwards in time, years, decades, millennia, billions of millennia, etc., that does not necessitate that the punishment will be cumulative and infinite. That doesn't have to follow. Okay, these are separate things: eternity and infinity in terms of something happening. They're not the same. Eternity is not infinity. Eternity is infinite time. Eternity is infinite time. Okay, but infinity is separate basically. And like I said, the best way to understand it is with a mathematical formula. So there's the equation which I wrote. Where you take y as the amount of punishment. C is basically the amount of decreed punishment that the person would get. And basically I use the tan function. Okay, and of course x is time, has to be greater than 0. You're not going to have negative time. And y has to be greater than 0. You're not going to have negative punishment. So when you plot it, it looks like this, right? It looks like this. And now maybe I'll show it on another tab as well. But basically, if you put here, set the value as 10, so punishment equals 10, right? Then what happens is, of course, and y is the total amount of punishment received. Okay, so let's say after 5 years, he's gotten this amount of punishment. After 10 years, we're here. Okay, he's received this amount. 15 years here. As this is a limit function. Okay, it will only reach 10 at infinity. Okay, it will only reach 10 at eternity. Right? You have to go on forever before it reaches 10. Okay, but it will never go above 10. It will never go above 10. The punishment is not cumulative in that way. Okay, it's just 10, and this 10 is sort of, you can imagine it as being stretched out over eternity. Okay. Okay, so let me bring out that